Welcome back, guys. I'm Zell, and I'm glad you're here. Today we're talking about the Kershaw Camber Model 1678. It's a sexy knife with black aluminum handles and an S30V blade. Come on in here a little closer and we'll get a look at it. Taking a closer look at the Kershaw Camber, we've got aluminum scales nicely sculpted with Torx head hardware throughout. Nice, feels kind of like a screen print here of the Kershaw SpeedSafe USA. And this rubbery stuff here, Kershaw calls Track Tech. It's set in nicely, has just a slight raise above the aluminum. And this stuff isn't like grip tape or non-skid. It's more rubbery. Provides a pretty good grip, especially for a knife with almost no jimping on it, but it's not something that's gonna tear away at your pockets quickly. As we turn around to the bottom of the knife, we have a nicely cut aluminum spacer here, and our flipper has some nice jimping on it. It's a little more aggressive than most of the Kershaw jimping. This is closer to ZT style jimping here. As we move on around, we have some more of that Track Tech stuff here, and we've got a pocket clip similar to what they put on the Cryo series of knives. It's a deep carry pocket clip, and it really is deep carry. It's rather nice. Also, no branding on the pocket clip at all, so you can carry this without advertising what you're carrying. As we turn it back up here, we can see the blade's nicely centered, and we have a liner lock. It's one of those inset liner locks, similar, almost exactly like is used on the ZT0770. I suppose should be the other way around. This knife came first. Going through the close numbers, we've got a length of 4.25, a height of 1.4, and a thickness of 0.46. The Kershaw Camber is a SpeedSafe assisted opening knife. Put your finger on the little flipper back here and push it down. Blade flies out nicely and with authority. And when we open the knife, we have an open length of 7 3/8 inches with a blade length and a blade edge of 3.2 inches and a blade thickness of 0.12 inches and a weight of 3.72 ounces. The blade is S30V, has a nice flat grind on its primary bevel here, and then we have a bit of a swedge up here, thins the knife out across the spine, comes back a little wider here, and then narrows back to the tip. Should make for a very strong blade, and in use I'd have to say it is. Some quick things to note about this knife: we have no jimping anywhere across the back of the knife, spine of the blade, or back of the handle. Zero jimping. Zero jimping in here. The only jimping on the knife is right here on the back of your flipper. However, whenever you put the knife in hand, the shape of the handle holds your hand in the knife quite nicely. It's much like the Zero Tolerance 0770, and there is no jimping here. The 0770 has a little bit, but it's kind of useless. So if you're looking for jimping, this is not the knife for you. However, the handle shape does hold your hand in securely, and the knife is easy to handle. Other things to note where this knife differs from most of the Kershaw line is we have an inset liner lock, and what that means is inside the aluminum scale here we have a piece of stainless steel, as you can see, that is set into that handle as your liner lock. Instead of having a full liner, it's an inset. It's just a smaller piece set there. However, this knife locks up extremely tight. No blade play in any direction. It's somewhere just slightly less than 50% lockup, but it's nice and tight. Now while we have the knife up here, my one gripe with the knife is they done such a nice job of putting this knife together, and it is really a beautiful knife. And then we get right here, these two screws and your stop pin are not captured. Really looks like Kershaw could have put in the extra little bit of work to capture those screws and make this knife just extremely slick. The blade on the camber deserves a little bit of special attention. It's one of the few consistent knives in the Kershaw lineup that has an S30V blade. It's flat ground here. We've got a swedge here, as we saw earlier, that brings us to a little wider spot here and then narrows back down to the point. So you have your flat here, a grind here, and a flat grind here. Kershaw seems to have done really well with the S30V. It's a very, very good looking blade with the multiple grinds, and it takes a very, very fine edge and seems to hold it rather well. If you are a user of Kershaw's 8CR13 MOV line of knives, the S30V is a massive step up from those knives in blade steel. So after looking at the camber, what do you think? I rather think it's a pretty sexy knife. It's the only consistent knife that has an S30V blade in Kershaw's lineup, at this point anyhow. And it's got a really pretty one. Nice drop point blade with those swedges cut. I mean, it's really nice. And it carries really well. With the nice deep pocket clip there, this thing carries well. And I carry it not terribly often, but often enough. The knife lends itself well to those times whenever you want to go ahead and carry a normal size knife, but you don't want something sticking out of your pocket, and you don't want something that whenever you pull it out, it's going to look all tactical. You know, you pull this thing out, let the blade out easy, and you've got basically a standard pocket knife. Just a drop point blade, nice satiny finish on the blade, and yeah, it's black, but it screams more elegance than it does tactical. And we should probably talk about price a little bit. It's a really nice knife, and you're getting it at what I think is a really reasonable price here in the US. It's about $72. That's what Amazon had it listed at today. And for an all aluminum knife that's put together as well as this one is, I think that's a bargain. And I really think this knife gets overlooked quite often because it is at the upper reaches of Kershaw's price points. But I do want to show you something here before we go away. A little while back we looked at this knife. It's a zero tolerance 0770. Anything looking familiar here? It should. Get these knives up here in front of me so they'll focus real well. These two knives in many ways are very, very similar. The handle design is similar. They're both inset liner locks. Now they've got different blade steel and different blade shapes. And yes, the handles are slightly different, but they are designed very much the same. And they carry very much the same. They have nearly identical pocket clips. The ZT has a smaller pocket clip, but they ride at about the same depth. And with this one, there's no branding on it, so it's a little more covert, if you will. For me, if I'm putting on a pair of slacks, or I'm going somewhere where people may be a little nervous about some guy carrying a knife, this is one of my top choices. I get a good high quality knife that I can carry in that situation and feel good about it. The action's nice and smooth, works well. That little inset liner is a nice touch. You don't have a big extra liner in there taking up weight, and you don't have part of the frame swinging away for your frame lock. May not be the strongest lock in the world, but it looks a lot nicer than some of the others. So overall, I give the Kershaw Camber a big thumbs up, and I really think more of you should be out there looking at it. You know, I pick on Kershaw sometimes, but not for this knife. This is a good one. And I really appreciate you guys stopping by and hanging out with me for a few minutes. And if you would take a moment and whack that like or share button, that would be awesome. And you're going to want to hit that subscribe button too. And if only one of them, that subscribe button, because we've got a lot more headed your way. And you're not going to want to miss out. I don't want you to miss out. But for today, guys, you guys have a good one, and I'll see you next time.